I thought it would be nice to include an Italian-themed evening this summer. So I've paired together a couple of pieces by Mendelssohn and I thought it would be nice to include an Italian-themed evening this summer. So I've paired together a couple of pieces by Mendelssohn and Respighi that share the theme of Italy. Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony is a wonderful, genial, and open-hearted souvenir of a trip that he took to Italy, composed in Mendelssohn's classically clean style with bouncing rhythms and a wild finale based on an Italian dance, the Tarantella. Respighi's The Pines of Rome is an altogether different piece, and it reminds me of those old movies and TV shows that I grew up with watching in the 60s, and the tagline will be at the end, filmed in glorious Technicolor. And that's essentially how Respighi's music is scored, in glorious Technicolor. There's a pretty large orchestra at his disposal, and he makes use of all of the sonic possibilities with great effect. The premise of the piece is 4 little vignettes that roll into one another during the course of the 20 minutes of the piece's duration that are views of his native city of Rome. The backdrop for each of these scenarios is a set of pine trees. And so we find 4 different scenes, the first of which are children playing games, the second of which is set in the sepulchral catacombs, and it's quite spooky. The third of which is a romantic, moonlit scene with the pines, shadows of the pines in the background, and even at the very end, the sound of a pre-recorded nightingale, which is really quite evocative and spellbinding. And it, in turn, spills into the last movement, which is really the big finish, and a magnificent procession of a Roman army along the Appian Way, striding toward the Capitol in triumph. And Respighi captures the scene magnificently by setting a sort of a tread of the march of soldiers, very steady but inexorable, and gradually building a massive crescendo by simple means of adding more and more instruments. There's a wonderful theatrical dimension to this because Respighi calls, in addition for the already impressive array of brass instruments within the orchestra, the addition of 6 other brass instruments, 3 pairs of trumpets, trombones, and horns to be placed at various points in the audience. And these brass instruments indulge in a sort of back and forward call between the orchestra on stage and themselves. We did this about 4 or 5 years ago in the tent, and people thought it was terrific. And if you liked it then, you have no idea how much more effective it's going to sound with these phalanxes of brass instruments stationed throughout the audience. It builds to a terrific, terrific climax, and I think it's going to bring down the house, or in this case, the tent.